The prologue opens with two classmates rousing Hajime Nagumo by slamming his desk. Among them is Daisuke Hiyama, notorious for constantly picking on him. They tease Hajime for always dozing off, blaming it on his habit of staying up late, but he's unfazed by the jeers. Kori Shirasaki steps in, sits beside Hajime, and gently reminds him about being on time. Kori, celebrated at school as one of the two great beauties, keeps a closeness to Hajime that even he can't explain. And despite her popular friends disliking him, she insists on staying by his side. Moments later, Aiko Hatayama enters and tells everyone to take their seats, when suddenly a blinding white glow rises from the floor. In the next instant, the entire class is transported to a completely different world. As chosen heroes, they've been summoned by a god to fight demons and save humankind on the brink of extinction. Captain Meld briefs them on status plates and classes. Apparently, combat classes are the most prized. Only about 10 in 10,000 have one. Kori receives the rare healer class. Poor Hajime's fate doesn't improve here either. He's assigned the plain synergist class. Hayama laughs at his low rank. As events move forward, the question becomes whether Hajime's life will truly change in this unfamiliar realm, or if the same struggles will continue. The anime's story then cuts to Hajime awakening deep inside the Great Orcus Labyrinth, a deadly dungeon swarming with monsters. He assesses his dire situation and the very real possibility of death while trying to find a way out. No clarity comes until a nearby rabbit-type monster catches his eye. The seemingly harmless creature reveals itself as vicious, effortlessly shredding two other beasts with a barrage of attacks. After devouring them, it turns on Hajime, but a much larger predator appears, fells the rabbit, and eats it. Terrified, Hajime bolts. The bear-like monster notices and charges. He desperately tries to flee but suffers a grievous injury. His arm is severed by the bear's strike. Even so, Hajime realizes he must drive the beast off to live, so he repeatedly uses transmutation, reshaping the terrain to create a barrier and escape. The bear gives up pursuit as Hajime holes up in a small cavern. Shaken to the core, he collapses. When he comes to, he's lying beside a sacred stone that produces holy water, which he uses to mend wounds and lift curses. He recalls from library reading that such sacred stones form deep within mountains where mana accumulates. Compared to his peers, Hajime was always unremarkable in raw ability. His school memories are mostly scorn and ridicule, so he rechecks the basic techniques he learned, reminding himself how far behind he is in combat power. As Hajime ventures deeper, flashbacks reveal how he ended up here. 70 days earlier, the class descended into the treacherous reaches of Orcus. During one clash, Kuki Amanogawa covered Hajime when he faltered, making it clear Hajime needed to step up. Kaori Shirasaki checked whether he was okay, and they pushed on until they found a glittering glands crystal, a famed gemstone in kingdom lore. It was a trap. Touching it teleported them into a perilous zone packed with monsters. In the chaos, Kaori, Captain Meld, Shizuku Yagashi, and the others fought to hold back the demonic horde, but the creature's power overwhelmed them. A divine protection barrier kept them alive for a time, yet even that began to fail. In that desperate moment, Hajime used transmutation to disrupt the approaching enemies and open a path across a bridge, letting classmates advance. When he turned to follow, a blast struck him, a teammate's direct attack. He toppled from the edge as the bridge collapsed under monster assault, plunging into the labyrinth's fathomless depths. On death's doorstep and feeling utterly betrayed, Hajime questioned why he ever agreed to train in Orcus. Resolving to live, he did the unthinkable. He ate monster meat for sustenance, and managed to trap two wolf-type beasts. Consuming their flesh triggered a strange surge from their blood, but he survived. Checking his status plate, he found his level increased and new skills gained, lightning-related and wolf-like traits. With transmutation, he fashioned a revolver and named it Donner. then crafted and tested blast rounds from different stones. Armed with these new tools, he hunted down a rabbit monster and defeated it, further boosting his abilities. Eventually, he faced the bear again to settle the score. Hajime goaded it, slipped past its swipes, and answered with precise gunplay. A well-placed shot shattered the creature's arm. A heartbeat later, a clean headshot ended the fight. It was a decisive rematch victory. On floor 17, he drank again from the sacred stone and wondered how long this nightmare would continue. The lower levels were even darker than before, and visibility was miserable. When a lizard-like monster lunged in the blackness, he kept his cool, using lightning bombs to stun and finish it with measured Donner shots. Level by level, he cut through anything that blocked his path. By the time he reached floor 44, his resolve to exterminate whatever stood before him had hardened into a routine of survival. Meanwhile, his classmates reported to the king. They explained how the Glanz crystal trap on the 20th floor had warped them directly to the unprecedented 65th level, deepest any humans had reached, where they encountered a terrifying behemoth. The king reminded them their summoning was bound by royal agreement. News of the gods' heroes being lost must be concealed, and they were forbidden to speak of what happened to anyone. Elsewhere, Shizuku tended to Kaori, who had collapsed in the labyrinth. Kaori remembered the moment a spell struck Hajime as he tried to rejoin the group, sending him into the abyss. When Kuki argued against Captain Meld's judgment, Shizuku sided with the captain, calling the choice necessary. Still turning possibilities over in her head, Shizuku practiced alone on the lawn and recalled their very arrival in this world, summoned by the Church of Pope Ishtar to fight demons and their monster allies. Humans, demons, and beastmen. For decades, humanity has been barely hanging on while demons controlled the monsters, the war pushing human existence to the brink. While reflecting, Shizuku began quietly suspecting Hiyama, who'd always clashed with Hajime. Perhaps jealousy was involved. She shelved the thought and hurried inside. Kaori woke after 5 days, immediately asking about Hajime. Shizuku tried to deflect, but Kaori pressed until the truth slipped out. Hearing of Hajime's fall, Kaori dropped to the floor, begging Shizuku to take her back into the dungeon. Back in the depths, Hajime continued onward with no idea what floor he was on, only that he'd already descended about 50 levels from where he started. A sealed door and a Pandora-like lock in the depths piqued his curiosity. He tried to open it with transmutation and failed, waking 2 massive guardians. They lunged, but Hajime's evolved tactics and Donner's bite cut them down. From their remains, he learned the keys were hidden inside the monsters. Behind the door, he discovered a golden-haired girl sealed in crystal. He'd hoped for supplies or an ally, not someone imprisoned in stone. Turning to leave, the girl begged him to help. She said her own people betrayed her, sealing her because of immortality and rapid regeneration. Using his ability, Hajime shattered the seal and she stepped out, while he caught his breath after the intense output. She thanked him and asked for a name. He christened her Yue after the moon. She accepted it with a small smile. Their first moment together was cut short. Daggers slammed into Hajime's back, grievously wounding him. Sensing a greater enemy ahead, Hajime shrugged off his coat, handed it to Yue, and told her to climb on his back as he advanced to face a metallic scorpion. Even injured, he unleashed repeated attacks, but its armor shrugged off normal rounds. He vaulted onto its carapace to line up shots, still futile. As the fight escalated, Hajime copied its earth magic trick, raising a stone shield, while Yue drank his blood to restore her mana. Recharged, she fired Azure Blaze, blasting the scorpion hard, yet it still wouldn't die. Seizing the opening, Hajime ordered another volley from Yue. Using the distraction, he planted Donner rounds straight into its head, killing it. When the dust settled, Yue asked why he hadn't run and risked his life instead. Hajime answered that he doesn't run anymore, he'll face what comes. Yue then explained her unique regeneration and revealed that the labyrinths were made by the Liberators. overwhelming beings who rebelled against the gods and built these dungeons. It's believed a liberator might still dwell in the heart of a labyrinth, so finding that core could lead them back to the surface. Motivated, Hajime crafted a second rifle, Schlagen, and the two continued toward the center. On the road, Yui peppered him with questions. Hajime said he was from Earth, that he and his classmates were summoned by a god to fight demons. But unlike the others, he wasn't a frontline fighter. As a synergist, he'd been branded useless. He admitted he'd been betrayed, lost an arm to a monster, and now had no intention of ever relying on the class again. He was focused on getting stronger himself. He insisted he didn't hold resentment toward them anymore. Hearing his ordeal, Yui cried, saying she too had no home or place to return. Hajime decided she'd come with him on his quest to get back. Soon, they ran into dinosaur-like beasts with parasite flowers growing from their heads. Hajime concluded the creatures were being controlled through those plants, and if they wanted to stop the waves of attackers, they had to find the controller. Fleeing through the onslaught, they reached a cave lined with green crystals. Hajime felt the mastermind was inside. Suddenly, a flower sprouted on Yui's head, enthralling her. She launched spells at Hajime, who narrowly defended and spotted the true monster smirking behind her. Yui shouted for him to shoot through her if needed. Hajime did exactly that, the bullet piercing the flower and killing the hidden controller. Victory secured. Yui spun on him in fury for being so reckless. He'd even burned her outfit in the process. That night, while Hajime roasted monster meat and boasted about the taste, Yui approached, eyes shining. She shed her clothes and stood unabashed, inviting him to let her love him. By morning, they descended toward the final layers. Yui noticed how careful Hajime had become here. They soon reached a sealed gate. A spark of hope lit Hajime's eyes. Maybe this was the way out. Unmoved by hardships, they pressed on and finally reached the 100th floor. A vast, eerie space opened. Glass-like formations, cold light everywhere. When the ground bled crimson and an enormous six-headed dragon rose. The Hydra surged forward, flames, blades, lightning, but Hajime and Yui blocked and countered. Hajime emptied Donner in tight bursts. Yui called down raging sleet, tearing into draconic flesh. The wounds closed at once. There was a healer head among them. Realizing each head had a role: defense, deception, healing, assault. They planned to target the healer. Their barrage was intercepted by the defender, soaking damage for the rest. Suddenly, one head invaded Yui's mind, dragging her back to the darkness of her imprisonment, trying to break her. Tears welled. She froze. Hajime recognized the spellbind and wrenched her free, pulling up a protective barrier around her. He leaned close and kissed her, an unexpected comfort that steadied her heart and kindled her strength for the fight ahead. He promised they'd win together and go home. Empowered, Yui erupted, unleashing a storm of spells. Hajime ramped up fire and steel with Schlagen. When the Hydra tried the same trick on Hajime, it met a mind far harder to sway. He snapped the illusion instantly. Yui's heavenly blade tore off several heads, yet the Guardian doubled down, lashing them with scorching thunder. A blast angled for Yui. Hajime stepped into the line and took it, collapsing under the strain. Desperate, Yui struck back, but her spells barely slowed it. Daggers of light rained like a storm. As defeat loomed, she suddenly found herself cradled. Hajime had risen again. Side by side, they synchronized their offense. Their combined assault snared the monster, and together, they finished it. As the Hydra fell, Hajime's knees buckled, and he slumped into Yui's arms. In answer to their victory, a door ground open ahead, the way to the Liberator's sanctum. On the other side, Aiko Hadayama pushes back against Pope Ishtar's plan to send the students back into the dungeon. She argues they're still reeling from losing Hajime, and forcing an expedition now is reckless. The Pope answers that only those who volunteer will go. Furious, Aiko ends the discussion and returns to her quarters, vowing to do whatever she can to protect her kids. The next morning, Hajime wakes and jolts when he realizes he's on a bed. How is there a bed this deep underground? Even more shocking, Yue is beside him, completely naked. Flustered, he snatches up his clothes and asks where they are. Yue says this is the Liberator's, Maverick's, sanctum. She brought him here after he collapsed post-battle. The clothes he's wearing? They belong to the Liberator. That leads Hajime to suspect the Maverick was actually human. When they step out, an entire mansion sprawls before them, an absurd sight in a dungeon. Inside, they find a chamber with a magic crest on the floor and a skeletal corpse seated on a chair. As Hajime approaches, the soul of Oscar Orcus manifests, praises him for surviving, and explains he's the creator of this labyrinth. The message they're seeing is pre-recorded. Meanwhile, on the 65th floor, Kaori, Shizuku, Kuki Amanagawa, and the others challenge the behemoth again, this time refusing to run. Kuki takes point and divvies up rolls, drawing the monster's aggression so the rest can attack from angles. Shizuku carves through a horn with a full-force strike, but it's not enough to tip the fight. As momentum starts to slip, Suzu raises a shield to deflect the onslaught. Bolstered by Kaori's support magic, the class finally lands a solid series of blows. Kuki seizes the opening, leaps in, and delivers the decisive strike to finish the behemoth. Back in the mansion, Oscar Orcus bequeaths his power to Hajime and warns him not to use it for petty ends. As knowledge floods in, like the world's history being etched into his mind, Hajime learns the so-called Mavericks were actually the Liberators, not villains. Legends have lied about them. He and Yue lay Oscar's remains to rest, keeping only a ring that opens sealed places. With creation magic now in hand, Hajime can literally craft anything he can visualize. They spend time training, experimenting with new skills, refining weapons, even tweaking monster meat processing to squeeze out temporary stat boosts. Once he's satisfied with the basics, Hajime tells Yue they'll face enemies on all sides. The church, the kingdom, maybe even the gods. Yue doesn't waver, her path is with him now. Soon after, a panicked rabbit-eared girl of the Halia Beastmen appears, Shia, begging for help and declaring she can guide them through the Sea of Trees fog with her future sight and unique mana control. Initially, Hajime is reluctant. Yui points out a guide from the forest would be useful. He agrees to hear Shia out, and the trio heads for the forest, cutting down monsters in sync while Shia makes her case to travel with them. Hajime tells the Holia they must stop living timidly, either kill or be killed. Inspired, the tribe starts monster hunting to harden themselves. In a playful spar, Shia even manages to nick Yue's cheek. Later, the tribe returns with their first real haul, beaming with bloody pride. At the Great Tree, they find a monument marked with 4 sigils, relics pointing to other labyrinths, convincing Hajime to go conquer the next one. He leaves the Halia behind to train, hinting he'll need their help down the road. Shia recalls her mother saying she'd meet remarkable people beyond the Sea of Trees. Eyes shining, she insists on the bet Yue accepted. Shia won that duel after all. Yue counters. The future can be changed. In Rasen Gorge, the group searches for an entrance. Shia suddenly finds it, thrilled. Inside, Hajime handles the opening wave of monsters. Soon they reach a stone tablet. Shia playfully smacks it with her hammer, and it regenerates while a voice explains it'll repair itself. They press deeper, dealing with traps through coordination and grit, only to loop back to the starting room. Meanwhile, in the High League Kingdom, Yuka announces that Aiko can't sit still any longer. She'll accompany her. Yuka also pushes classmates to accept that Hajime saved their lives back in Orcus. The scene switches back. Hajime, Yue, and Shia reach Milady Risen's lair. Guards block the corridor, so Hajime has Shia take point, promising he and Yue will step in if needed. After breaking through and climbing a wooden platform, they finally face Milady. Hajime bluntly states his goal, ancient magic, and when Milady quizzes him, he answers. He was dragged here by a god and needs that magic to return home. She won't give up its whereabouts, so the battle begins. Her Azantium armor makes her stubbornly tough, but Hajime isolates a weakness, her heart, and, together with Shia, pounds that point until Milady falls. With her last breath, she warns him. Using ancient magic will put him on the path of a god killer. Then her death proves a trick. Via gravitic magic, she's already transferred herself to another body. Hajime moves to claim her treasure, springs a trap, and the labyrinth ejects all three to a distant shore. They trudge to Masaka Inn. At the counter, Hajime asks for one room, but Yue proposes two, one for her and Hajime, one for Shia. Shia, of course, wants to share with Hajime, and the argument heats until a man approaches, introducing himself as Ilwer Chang, head of the Furin Adventurers Guild. He needs help. A party bound for the northern mountains vanished, including Will Kudera, third son of Count Kudeta. Ilwer requests a rescue mission. Hajime agrees on two conditions: status plates for his team, and Ilwer's absolute obedience to his commands when required. Terms accepted, Hajime, Yue, and Shia depart toward Ilt and the mountains. Elsewhere, in the lakeside town of Ur, Aiko and her group eat while worrying over Shimizu, who's been missing a week. The owner brings bad news. Food is running out because the mountain routes are blocked. Then, Hajime's trio enter. Aiko lights up and rushes over, but Hajime pretends not to know her. A Templar knight mouths off at Shia. Hajime rises and puts a bullet in the knight without ceremony. Later that night, Hajime slips into Aiko's room to explain why he won't travel with them. He recounts the Age of Gods, the mad deity manipulating soldiers called Liberators, only to have humanity turn on them. The Liberators hid in the labyrinths and set trials that grant unique powers. Those who succeed become the so-called Mavericks. The labyrinths hold the key to getting home. Also, he was targeted by a spell from one of her students. That's why he fell. Aiko says some students want to join Hajime. He refuses. She promises to honor his conditions. She and her students will part ways after this talk. On the road, she tells him Shimizu disappeared. Hajime deploys autonomous Ornis drones linked to his vision. They soon find an abandoned shield, a bag, and large quadruped tracks, then a hidden passage behind a waterfall. Inside, they locate Will Kudera. Introducing himself, Hajime explains they're here on Ilwer's orders. Will, guilt-stricken over his comrades' deaths and terrified of a black dragon, spirals into self-blame. Hajime grabs him by the collar and snaps him out of it. When they try to leave, the black dragon ambushes them. Hajime braces a barrier under its breath attack as Yui and Shia launch a combo, Heavenly Calamity and Hammer Blow, dropping it until it gets back up and sends Shia flying. Hajime orders Aiko to lead the others to safety, grinds the dragon down, and with one last smash from Shia, they bring it crashing to the ground. Questioning reveals the dragon is actually a dragonborn girl enslaved by a black-robed mage. Hajime prepares to end it anyway, but Yue stops him. Removing Hajime's metal stake is the only way to avoid killing her when she changes back. She returns to human form, Tio Claris of the Claris clan, and warns that the cloaked man controls the dragonborn and plans to attack Hajime first refuses to get dragged into a war for Will's sake, but Aiko pleads, and he relents, organizing the town's defenses. From the watchtower, he stirs the townsfolk with a blunt speech, praising Aiko and telling everyone to stand firm. He fires the opening shot to drop a demonic dragon. Then he, Yue, and Tio unleash a wave that shreds the horde until Tio exhausts herself and Yue's mana dips. Hajime summons Brice, his bike, and, with Shia, carves a path to the enemy commander, only to find the black-robed puppet master is Shimizu. He takes Aiko hostage with a poisoned needle. A dragon rider snipes at him and chaos erupts. Shia throws herself in front of Aiko and is wounded. Aiko gets poisoned anyway. Hajime cleanses the toxin on the spot, then, unmoved by Aiko's pleas, executes Shimizu, ending it quickly so the burden doesn't fall on her shoulders. After the clash in Ur and Shimizu's death, Hajime and his group continue traveling on Breeze, when an ominous sign catches their attention, an abducted young girl glimpsed at a distance, hinting at more trouble to come. In Furin, Will Kudera reunites joyfully with Guildmaster Ilwer, and Hajime uses the moment to request a new status plate for Tio. Later, Hajime, Yue, Shia, and Tio gather in a room. Hajime looks out the window and notices suspicious figures prowling near the guild. As they talk, Tio recalls her father's words about the limits even gods face and how every scheme eventually fails. She also remembers volunteering for this mission of investigating the alien beings, believing it could impact both their worlds. The next day, Hajime gives Shia a quick tour of Furin. At her suggestion, they visit the aquarium where they run into a talking fish named Lemon. Curious, Hajime asks how it ended up there. Lemon tells them he got trapped by an underground current and wound up confined in the tank. Hajime and Shia devise a plan and free Lemon into a nearby river. Once released, Lemon mentions seeing a little girl involved in a shady exchange, evidence of slavers in the city, and warns them to be careful. On the way back, Hajime senses a child's presence in the sewers. He descends, finds a small girl, and carries her out. When she awakens, he introduces himself and Shia, learning her name is Mew. Back at their place, Hajime and Shia feed and clean her, while Yue and Tio talk privately about Shia's time alone with Hajime. Yue calmly notes Shia's feelings and total commitment to whatever she takes on. From what Mew says, Hajime realizes her captors are likely the very slavers Lemon warned about. After discussing it with Shia, he decides to bring Mew to the city guards for protection. As soon as he leaves Mew with the guards, an explosion rocks the area. Hajime races back and finds a message scrawled on the wall. Send Shia, the white-haired bunny girl, or Mew dies. He and Shia regroup with Yue and Tio, explain the situation, and ask for their help. The four of them move with ruthless precision, tearing down the slaver ring piece by piece. Hajime tracks the boss, drops him without hesitation, and recovers Mew, carrying her into the sky while Yue and Shia erase the slaver's stronghold below. When they reunite on the ground, Mew clings to Hajime, heart-melted, and starts calling him Papa. A while later, they travel on Breeze, with Shia riding her motorbike beside them. As they near the outpost town of Harad, Mew notices Hajime seems subdued and asks why. He explains he passed through this place 4 months ago. In town, he finds Lobeus and delivers Ilwer's letter, detailing Hajime's recent deeds. Suddenly, Endo arrives, reporting a demon attack near the labyrinth. He's visibly relieved Hajime survived. At the same time, the heroes are already investigating the intruding monster trail. A demoness appears, demanding they surrender and join her. She claims one of them already did. Kuki's group doesn't buy it and engages, but the monsters are far stronger than expected. Shizuku is quickly incapacitated. The heroes scratch out a small win only to watch the demoness heal her minions in an instant. Seeing the gap in power, Shizuku orders Endo to alert Captain Meld. In the chaos, Kuki unleashes Limit Break, blasting one creature down, but Taniguchi falls to the demons, and Shizuku slaps Kuki back to reality, telling him to retreat. Endo sprints to Meld, but a pursuing demon closes in. Captain Meld stands his ground, telling Endo to run as he challenges the enemy head-on. A battered, bloodied Meld staggers back to the heroes, only for the demon lady to appear and kill him before their eyes. Lobeus asks Hajime to help rescue the others. Hajime tells Endo bluntly these people are strangers to him and mean nothing, but as Endo pleads and old memories surface, Hajime finally agrees to aid the Imperial heroes. On the front line, Shizuku fights on despite severe wounds. Kari rushes in to shield her, but the barrier collapses and both are about to be finished, when a metal rod hurtles from the sky, skewering the monsters. The rescuer steps forward. Hajime Nagumo has arrived. While carving a root off the mountain, Hajime gets an idea. He pulls out his pile driver, long rods made from compressed ore and coated in azantium, and uses it to punch a tunnel, springboarding onto the battlefield with a dramatic entrance that stuns everyone. He assigns roles to Yue, Shia, and Tio, and takes the hardest targets, the demons and the demon lady, for himself. He cuts down wave after wave, sniping invisible foes and exposing them one by one. Even as the demoness grows terrified, he never slows, annihilating the horde. The heroes stare, wondering who this monster of a man even is. Endo reveals the truth. It's Hajime Nagumo, the boy who fell from the bridge. Hayama scoffs. It can't be. He was involved in Hajime's fall. But Endo points to the status plate as proof. In the chaos, Yue corners Hayama, asking what he intended back then. Hajime, meanwhile, neutralizes the demoness's healer, removing her ability to regenerate. She summons a serpent to strike Shizuku. Hajime tosses his sword to Shizuku mid-air, and she slices the snake cleanly apart. The demon lady tries to flee. Hajime cuts her off, and explains he's already deduced their monsters are products of ancient magic, gained when the demon race conquered a labyrinth. He raises his weapon and moves in to execute her. Kuki throws himself in the way, begging him to stop. Hajime shoves past without mercy and finishes the demo-ness. Afterward, Taniguchi and Meld are tended by Shia, but the grief and shock still hang heavy. Kori rushes into Hajime's arms, overwhelmed that he's alive. A thick tension rises between Hajime and Kuki. Reading it, Hajime confronts him and draws a line. He doesn't spare enemies, ever. If Kuki opposes that, they'll be enemies too. When a large army under Lobeus arrives, Kori gathers her courage and confesses she wants to go with Hajime. He answers gently but firmly. His heart belongs to Yue. Yue, half teasing, invites Kaori to come along anyway. Kaori accepts the unspoken challenge, and a friendly rivalry sparks. Hajime says they'll leave tomorrow. In the Heilig Kingdom, Pope Ishtar informs the monarch the heroes will soon return. A proclamation echoes through the halls. Princess Liliana brightens, eager to greet them. Later, Shizuku tells Liliana that Kaori has chosen to remain by Nagumo's side. Liliana worries over what that means for Kuki. Shizuku vows to handle it. She also mentions Hajime stayed behind to keep searching for a way home. Across the Gruen Desert, Hajime and his companions ride a custom vehicle. The banter between Kaori and Yui intensifies into playful rivalry over Hajime, until the others remind them Mew is watching. Peace returns, until sandworms erupt. Hajime fires a missile to clear the pack, then uses the mounted gun to mow down the larger wave ahead. Soon, they spot a lone man, likely targeted by the worms, and move to help. Kaori checks him. His mana is dangerously overloaded. She tries several methods before using Sanctuary to channel off the excess into a holy crystal ring Hajime gave her. Carefully, she avoids draining too much and stabilizes him. Hajime suggests she examine all of them as well in case something airborne is spreading. The man awakens and introduces himself as Bees Fewald, son of Duke Lunswain, Fewald of Ankaji, their next destination. He explains Ankaji is suffering from a poison that's causing mana overload in its citizens, and the cure, Stillstone, lies in Gruen Volcano. He begs for Hajime's help. Hajime agrees to obtain the Stillstone and save Ankaji. Elsewhere, Fried reports to Michael about his recent defeat and losses, vowing to acquire another Age of Gods magic and avenge Katria. He asks Michael to guard their base while he grows stronger. In Ankaji, Hajime speaks directly to Duke Lunswain, stating their plan to help the city. At the oasis, Yue conjures water while Hajime tosses grenades into likely spots. Eventually, a slime-like monster surfaces, the source of the contamination. Even after it's killed, the water remains foul, but Tio assures them the oasis will cleanse itself thanks to the continuous inflow. The Duke publicly thanks Hajime and announces that Hajime's group will head to Gruen Volcano to mine Stillstone. Kaori stays behind to care for Mew, while Hajime, Yue, Shia, and Tio set off for the volcano. They enter the caverns. Hajime inspects mineral nodules and realizes the real stillstone has already been mined here, meaning they must go deeper. A fireball streaks at them, but Yue slices it with spatial severance. A flame bowl charges, and Shia drops it with one blow. The heat grows brutal, so they rest. Tio observes that these trials likely belong to a great labyrinth, testing their focus under pressure and their reaction to ambushes. Renewed, they take a boat and ride a river of lava, then plunge down a lava fall into a cavern lined with still stones. As Hajime targets the nearest island, serpents burst from the lava. He uses specialty ammo to vaporize them, but they regenerate. He figures it out. To get the 100 gems, they must kill 100 snakes. Tio, Shia, and Yue turn it into a race, racking up kills. When only 5 remain, a beam of light suddenly spears Hajime, knocking him cold and dropping him toward the lava. Yui snatches him out of the air, but the beam keeps blasting, wrecking the chamber. Freed appears, marveling that Hajime survived Uranus's breath. Hajime wakes and trades words with Freed Bagua, who introduces himself as a god's apostle sent to punish heathens, meaning Hajime's party. Hajime declares Freed his enemy and moves to strike, but Freed uses Cosmic Rift to blink behind him. Sensing the danger, Tio remembers her father's warning that Dragonborn are viewed as enemies of God. One misstep and Hajime could die. She transforms into a black dragon and charges in. Freed calculates that retreat is smart, but before he can, Hajime unleashes a relentless counterattack. The battle rages until Freed and his dragons finally escape. Victorious, yet drained, Hajime wobbles at the edge and almost drops into lava. Tio swoops up and catches him. Freed admits he underestimated Hajime, then destroys the cornerstone, causing lava to surge. Hajime tells Tio to blast through the roof and carry a message. Tell Kaori and Mew, "See you later." Tio uses pain conversion, powers up, and rockets out. Freed gives chase, but Hajime's planted arsenal detonates, triggering a volcanic eruption that shakes the world. In the Hyli's kingdom, Liliana watches Shizuku's harsh training and flashes back to the brutal monster fight. A stray cat darts by. Liliana approaches and they talk. Kuki's absence hangs in the air, and lilting rumors now call Hajime Nagumo a heretic. Elsewhere in the forest, Hiyama hears an unseen woman's voice trying to bargain with him. He refuses her demands, and she proposes a trade instead. Each will get what they want. Tio hurries back to the kingdom, morphs to human form, and finds Kaori, who anxiously asks where the others are. Tio urges her to stay calm and relays Hajime's message. See you later. Tio and Kaori resolve to retrieve Hajime and the others from Gruen Volcano. Meanwhile, Hajime and Yue discuss their luck escaping the eruption. He recalls their plan: swim through lava using an underwater craft he designed. But as they moved, he realized it wasn't the volcano pulling them. It was an external force. They decided to put distance between themselves and Ankaji, surfacing finally in the ocean. Sea beasts rise, Hajime disposes of them, and then Mew, Tio, and Shia descend from the sky. The reunion is warm, everyone is intact. They cross the waters to Erison, present the proof of conquest, and the commander confirms the quest cleared. Hajime brings Mew to Remia. Mother and daughter embrace, and the sight softens even Hajime's face. He lifts Remia gently, treating her injured leg. Kaori takes over, explaining she'll need 2 days to monitor for side effects. Remia thanks Hajime for returning Mew. Talk turns to who Mew's papa is now, and it's decided Hajime will be her father from here on. Back in the kingdom, Yagashi meets Aiko, and they discuss how Hajime saved them all. He asks how she recovered so quickly. He senses her attitude has changed and wonders what Hajime told her. Aiko reveals Hajime Nagumo has been officially branded a heretic. Yagashi notes that calling him heretic is like denying the goddess of fertility herself. Aiko agrees, saying the king and officials seemed oddly off. She adds that Hajime confided something about the god the church worships, leaving her unsettled. Later, sitting at a cliff's edge, Hajime and the others examine the Gruen proof of conquest. Hajime points it at the moon, and it shines a beam of light, an emotional moment for everyone. They take Hajime's boat into a cavern. Sensing an approach, he test fires a missile, neutralizing the threat. They find the 5th pentagram symbol, but Hajime uses the pendant's remaining light to open the entrance instead. Their craft splashes down. Water cascades in, but Yui handles it. As they descend, the pressure grows. Hajime hoists Yui onto his shoulders, prompting teasing from the others and a rare, sharp retort from Yui toward Kaori. A gelatinous monster appears. Shia charges and fails to harm it. Hajime throws up a dome against the corrosive slime, but the acid eats through. The thing morphs into true form. They blast it apart, only for it to regenerate immediately. Hajime realizes it has no core crystal. Its whole body is the mana source. A flamethrower doesn't work either. He spots an escape route and takes it. They drop through the floor into water. Hajime gets Kaori to shore first, then waits for the rest, reminding her they're still inside the Great Labyrinth. They reach a ship graveyard and are suddenly dragged into an illusion where only magic works. The scene shifts. Now they're on a ship's deck, ambushed by hostile men. Hajime and Kaori fight through. The illusion shatters and reality snaps back. Catching their breath, Hajime gently tries to tell Kaori to keep some distance. His heart belongs to Yui, no matter how close he is to anyone else. Kaori returns, clearly hurt. Elsewhere, a nun invites Aiko to the Divine Mountain and tries to charm her into submission. Aiko resists more than expected, so the nun decides Aiko could still be useful later. Hajime resumes talking with Kaori about why she joined them, offering to escort her back to Yaigashi if she wishes. Before she can answer, another illusion sweeps them up. This time a banquet aboard Granmyo's ship, humans and beastmen mingling. The king begins a speech, and Hajime thinks it's about peace, until the king orders the massacre of all beastmen in the name of their true deity. Kaori turns away, shaken as heads fall. Across the chaos, Hajime and Kaori lock eyes with a woman dressed like a nun. The mirage fades, and Hajime consoles Kaori, who trembles at the horror she witnessed. He wonders aloud if a deity twisted the king's heart, noting the people's genuine reverence for him. A sudden gust flings Kaori away, and Hajime cuts down soldiers swarming him while searching for her. When he finds her, he realizes something has possessed her, using her voice to manipulate him. He vows to torment the parasite without killing the host until it flees. The tactic works, and Kaori collapses back into herself. Regaining consciousness, she seals her decision with a kiss and tells Hajime she's staying. They reach the magic circle and teleport to the dungeon's end, where they rejoin Yui, Tio, and Shia. The women gently pry for details about what happened. Playful teasing turns into another Yui versus Kaori challenge over Hajime. The proof of conquest manifests, signaling the trial's completion and their readiness to tackle the labyrinth in the Sea of Trees next. Suddenly, the water surges over them. Yui and the others throw up a barrier underwater, as the Devourer, the gelatinous horror, returns. Reinforcements led by Leet arrive to hold it back. With time bought, Hajime lines up the finishing plan, and the Devourer is neutralized for good. In the Naili kingdom of Rowan, anxiety spreads. People have vanished without a trace. Meanwhile, the enigmatic nun escorts Aiko to the Divine Mountain to stand before her lord, who deems Aiko potentially troublesome to their plans. Freed rallies his forces with a heated speech, vowing to crush those he calls heretics. In the Healy kingdom, soldier Jews brings grim news to the commander. Many troops are showing signs of the ominous void. The commander acts fast, ordering Jews to gather experts in dark magic to study the void and counter it. He writes a letter addressed to Duke Fiwald and Hajime, to be used if things go wrong. In the midst of this, Captain Meld suddenly reappears, only for Daisuke to rush in with a report. The door swings wide, and Jews lunges at Meld with a sword. In the scramble, Doze turns on Daisuke, intent on killing him, but Meld blocks and tells Daisuke to run, just as a shocking twist lands. Daisuke rises and stabs Meld from behind. Panic ripples through the girls in the kingdom. Worry for their captain spills over. Incredibly, Meld survives the stab, staggers up, and fights Jews, Daisuke, and 2 soldiers at once. He drops Jews and the pair, but they inexplicably get back up, and more soldiers pour in to finish him. Overwhelmed, Meld dives through a window to escape. Outside, Noint appears and attacks in the deity's name, further complicating things. Inside the hall, Daisuke meets a mysterious girl who says Noint's interference went exactly as she planned. Meld's absence clears the path for their scheme. On the road again, Hajime and company arrive at a chaotic scene. About 15 guards are holding off 40 bandits with stubborn courage. Impressed by their resolve, Hajime guns the engine, unleashes Brise's mounted weapon, and wipes the bandits. He tells Kaori to treat the wounded. Then, a concealed figure steps forth. Princess Liliana rushes to Kaori, and introductions fly as she and Hajime face each other at last. Princess Liliana steps forward from hiding, rushes to Kaori, and then faces Hajime with a formal introduction. Hajime returns a curt nod and asks straight out why a princess is out here with a handful of battered guards. Liliana explains in a tight, rapid voice. The Hylie Kingdom is in turmoil. Soldiers are showing signs of the ominous void. Captain Meld has been attacked by allies, and strange orders seem to be flowing from the cathedral. Worse, a nun connected to the church has spirited Aiko Hatayama toward the Divine Mountain. With palace channels compromised, Liliana slipped past the capital to find outside help, and the only person she trusted to cut through the mess was Hajime Nagumo. Hajime studies her for a beat, then says they'll hear the full briefing on the move. Elsewhere, Aiko pieces together the nun's hint about an irregular, realizing she meant Hajime, just as he bursts in and frees her. Their reunion is cut short by a shock through the city. The capital barrier shatters and the demon army advances. Hajime sends Aiko to rendezvous with Kuki and the others, but an erasing beam slashes at them. Noint has arrived. Yue and Shei, meanwhile, step out to meet Friedbagwa's strike on the city. Tio readies support and relays the situation to Kaori. With Yue and Shei baiting Fried's forces in the tower, Fried splits the battlefield via portal magic, isolating his right-hand man against Shei while he duels Yue. Shei smashes through the lieutenant's assaults and drops him for good. Overhead, Tio calls down 5 holy dragons and burns out a swath of the demon host. Fried counters with Void Fissure. Yue rides it out but is gored by a dragon's horn before reversing the injury and surviving. Fried retreats, mauled but alive. Hajime, carrying Aiko, tangles with Noint. Her blank affect never wavers as she hurls a hellfire tidal wave. He lives through it using a prototype defensive rig, then needles her motives and constraints while testing her timing and vectors. The fight is brutal but inconclusive, until a separate blast flips the board. A church erupts after Tio's overboosted breath, and Hajime quickly reconstructs what happened. Aiko had accelerated decomposition to generate methane, turning the nave into a bomb. In the palace, Shizuku Yaegashi gathers the heroes to respond to the barrier breach when Nia, Ares Masquerade, urges a consultation. Then, a light beacon flares and blades flash. Everyone except Shizuku is stabbed. The real Eri Nakamura steps out, explaining spirit binding. Her necromancy lets the animated soldiers speak with her voice, and gloats that she duped Suzu Taniguchi, while staking a claim on Kuki Amanagawa forever. Kaori and Liliana rush in, but Hayama, under Eri's control, carves Kaori down, ramming the sword deeper as she struggles to heal. Kuki breaks free and rallies the heroes, but Poison Eri planted racks him. As Eri moves to kill Kaori and raise her as a puppet, Hajime blows in. He drops Hiyama, orders Tio and Aiko to treat Kaori, and seizes command. Eri tries to sick Meld at him. Hajime answers faster. Meld falls. Soldiers flood. His railgun answers. Hayama lunges again and gets hurled out of the church for his trouble. Freed appears outside with a sea of monsters demanding surrender. Hajime answers by calling a pillar from the sky, an orbital-class strike that erases the horde in a perfect ring around the palace, and warns Freed he's next if he stays. The siege breaks. With the Divine Mountain's pressure gone, the world's scripts change. The church's coercion weakens. Demon momentum falters. Imperial officers adjust to reality. Liliana shifts from crisis decrees to ordinary governance. Aiko drills students for real life. Shizuku finally breathes after Meld's disappearance, and Huolia patrols become simple paths again. The party's return route threads familiar places: Arisen for Mew and Remia, the Sea of Trees, Furin, Ankaji, then the capital. Their proofs: Oscar's Ring, Milady's Sigil, Gruin's Shard, Meluzine's Token, Haltina's Living Wood, the Ice Brand, and the final authorization are less trophies than receipts for a debt paid down. When equipment checks are done and rails run cold, they set their course. Some prepare for the way home to Japan. Others remain to rebuild Tortoise. Hajime Nagumo and his party set course for the next labyrinth aboard the Fenrir. Princess Liliana requested to be put ashore in the Holshire Empire, a dangerous place where mercenaries and killers gathered, and where slavery, especially of beast people, was widespread. Shei Halia recounted how Imperial soldiers had attacked her tribe. Kuki Amanogawa wanted to land in Holshire to free the slaves, but Hajime refused. Shizuku Yagashi and Kuki discussed Hajime, saying his calmness was an act and that he faced difficult choices. The ship then changed course. From the deck, they saw beast people being chased by Imperial soldiers. The beast people turned on the ambushers and killed them. Those beast people were the very girls Hajime had trained. The squad went down to the tribe and were greeted as they're their boss. The tribe promised to explain why they had fought the Imperials later at camp. Back on the ship, the story began to come together. Demons had appeared first, and the tribe had repelled them. After that, the Empire had arrived and attempted to capture the rabbit people as eternal slaves. The Howlia chief went to the capital to rescue the rest of his people, but contact with him was soon lost. Hajime's party set course for the Empire to help their friends. In Holshire, where slavery flourished, they searched for traces of the Howlia and learned that Cam Howlia had been arrested. They devised a plan to free Shei's father. Hajime found a ruse and asked Kuki to cause a disturbance in the city as a diversion. The party prepared ranger helmets to disguise themselves, though the helmets had a hidden catch. In the Imperial jail, prisoners spoke of Hajime until he suddenly appeared and freed them. Hajime's team also rescued Shei's father. Meanwhile, Kuki and others in helmets created a commotion near the barracks. The Howlia tribe revealed they had been tortured and interrogated about the secret behind their strength. Shei's father declared they would march to war against the Empire. Cam explained that the rabbit people had attracted the Emperor's attention and that the Emperor wished to keep them as pets. The Imperial army planned to march on the devastated Sea of Trees, where they intended to make their stand and slaughter those close to the Emperor. Hajime decided to help the Beast People and rallied them to enact a bloody massacre against the Empire and its Emperor. In the Imperial capital, Princess Liliana was received by the Emperor. She asked for his help, and they planned an alliance through her marriage to the prince. Kuki and the others requested a meeting with Liliana at the castle. A guard recognized Shei and attempted to seize her, but Hajime restrained him. Liliana asked why they had come. Hajime told her to wait until evening. The Emperor summoned Hajime and his squad, demanding Shei be handed over and claiming he still owned 2 slaves. The Emperor examined Hajime, who parried the accusations with composed skill. Afterwards, the Emperor invited everyone to a banquet in honor of Liliana's arranged marriage to Prince Bias of the Holshire Empire. Liliana dressed in a wedding gown. The prince entered and began to harass her, but he was poisoned by Hajime's spider before he could act. At that moment, Hajime's squad launched their covert attack. During the palace ball, Hajime invited Yui to dance to avoid an awkward conversation. Later, Liliana thanked Hajime and asked him to save her. Hajime replied that the Empire would fall that day and that the Crown Prince had little time left. The Emperor began a speech as the attack commenced, and he defended himself with powerful magic and skill. Shay confronted the commander who had humiliated her and dispatched him with ease. In the banquet hall, the poisoned emperor was struck by arrows. Cam placed an oath collar on the emperor and demanded recognition for the beast people. The beast people killed the emperor's son, pushing the emperor to refuse at first. They detonated important imperial structures and forced the emperor to take the oath. With that, the battle ended as a victory. The party flew to Fairbergen, the Haulia homeland, with the emperor in tow. They landed in the forest and reunited the freed beast people with their relatives. Kaori restored the previously destroyed forest, and Shay began to be revered as a goddess. Cam called the beast people to fight. After a council of elders, Hajime teleported the emperor back to his realm. The elders thanked the Haulia tribe and offered Cam a position among the chief elders, which he declined. Later, Hajime met Shay at the tree where her mother was buried. Shay declared she wanted to become a hero and confessed her love for Hajime. The squad then headed for the Great Labyrinth. Hajime inserted a ring into a monument. The monument glowed, and the great tree opened a passage. The party entered and were transported into the jungle. Inside, Hajime bound Yue with threads and asked what she was. When she did not answer, he shot it ahead and discovered it was a clone. A goblin leapt from the bushes, and Kuki rushed at it, but Hajime knocked him down. Hajime realized the goblin was Yui, who had apparently been reincarnated immediately after entering the labyrinth. Tio was found in a goblin body. The party was transported again. Hajime woke up at his home in Japan in his original form. Yui woke him, and they went to school. There, Hajime met Shea in a school uniform without rabbit ears, and sensed something was wrong. Tio appeared disguised as a teacher in a revealing outfit. They met Miyu on the way. In an alley, they saw someone harassing a girl, and Shea dealt with the attackers easily. Hajime still felt something off and heard a voice in his head. He understood he was trapped and freed himself, passing the trial. Yue passed her trial as well. The others began awakening after their trials and were transported to the next level. The party was attacked by a slime that released pheromones, which acted like an aphrodisiac and prevented them from using magic. Tio realized the tree's surface was merely a crown and marveled at the tree's immense size. They saw cockroaches below and panicked. Hajime felt fear as they desperately fought the cockroaches. They raised a barrier, but the cockroaches formed a magic circle and released giant roaches. The circle caused a flash that reversed their emotions. Hajime and Yue argued, and the party understood the magic had inverted their feelings. They fought off the cockroaches in a tense battle. Yui used a powerful spell that wiped out all the cockroaches. The group passed through a portal and arrived at the top of the tree, where Iltness Haltina appeared and congratulated them on clearing the trial. Iltness granted them evolution magic, which raised any magic by 1 level. She explained they could create only 3 new spells with that gift, and gave them the myriad compass of paths to help them reach whatever they sought. Only one of the ancient magics remained to be obtained. They returned to the village. Princess Altina turned out to be perverse. Hajime took Shea into his harem with Yui's permission. Afterwards, Hajime told Shea she belonged only to him and kissed her. Suzu asked Hajime to take her into the next labyrinth because she was determined to bring her friend back from the demon country. Kuki and the others asked Hajime to take them as well, and Hajime agreed. Fried looked upon an army of zombified beasts created by Yuri and spoke of a sinister plan, anticipating a confrontation with Hajime's squad. At the same time, Noint, the apostle, appeared in the sky. Hajime spoke who trained in the forest, and took her black blade to improve it. They flew to the snowy plains where the last labyrinth was hidden. Hajime complained he had fussed over the equipment, but could not improve the light sword of Managawa because it was perfect. They landed on the slope and jumped into the chasm. Following the compass, they saw cute little rabbits. Hajime turned the place into a slaughter and killed the other rabbits. They encountered a blizzard. Suzu formed a shield and they pressed on. Inside an ice cave, they were attacked by monsters, but the party defeated them without trouble. A door opened before them, and they entered a room made of ice. Kuki began to hear a voice and became nervous, asking whether others heard anything. No one else heard anything. Amanagawa heard a voice telling her not to trust the others. After that, the whole party began to hear their own voices. Shizuku remembered being offered the role of princess in elementary school, and choosing to be a knight instead. She recalled moments she had deceived herself and heard a voice telling her she was useless. Kaori told Shizuku she would always be there to listen. The squad continued. Nagumo's party approached an unknown door and were attacked by falling ice guardians. They used all their abilities, but some attacks were redirected and struck allies. Hajime realized each person had to defeat one guardian to reduce their numbers, so each member fought their own golem. Everyone prevailed and reached a golden door. After the passage, the party split up. Hajime saw his reflection speak to him and understood the labyrinth's goal was to defeat oneself. His altered copy emerged, and they fought using the same equipment and techniques. The clone provoked him, claiming he would never return to Japan because he was a killer, and that he did not love Yue but was dependent on her. Hajime stood firm, had grown stronger since entering the labyrinth, and easily defeated the clone. The clone said the trial's purpose was to accept oneself, then weakened. Hajime pressed his advantage and passed the trial through raw strength. Shizuku faced her reflection and initially lost. The clone taunted her, revealing truths. She had not wanted to study the sword, and Kuki had imagined himself her prince, leading to her humiliation in the dojo. Shizuku refused the truth and could not fend off the clone. The clone revealed Shizuku loved Hajime and continued to beat her. Shizuku dissolved in tears and begged for rescue. Hajime appeared and told her she could do it, motivating her to continue. Everything was decided with one decisive thrust, after which Shizuku emerged victorious. Hajime gave her a hairpin. Shizuku confessed she had fallen in love with him and thereby accepted herself. Suzu confronted her reality and realized she had not gotten close to anyone, blaming herself for turning away from Eri to protect herself. Suzu accepted herself, and the clone weakened. After the final strike, Suzu won. Yutaro picked her up and carried her on his back, saying he had come to terms with being a supporting figure and had managed to surpass himself. In another room, Tio fought herself. She blamed herself for failing to protect everyone and for the god destroying everything she loved. She admitted fear and a desire to use Hajime, but her will remained unshakable. She used the trial to test her strength for fighting the god. Yui fought her double, who told her trust would be her ruin. A flashback showed Yui had been a princess and had delegated rulership to her uncle, who then pierced her with his sword. The conflict centered on betrayal eating at Yue, but she overcame it and the clone weakened. Shay met a reflection, who blamed her for the weakness and deaths of her tribespeople. Shay defeated her quickly. Yue asked why her uncle had not killed her, but had sealed her instead. She passed the trial by force. Kaori faced the truth that she loved Hajime, that she was jealous and suffered because of it. Kaori acknowledged her flaws and defeated her clone. Kuki struggled with his clone. It was revealed he envied and hated Hajime and dreamed of being in his place. The clone pressed Kuki and reminded him it bothered him that Shizuku loved Hajime. Hajime then appeared, and Amanagawa rushed at him. Kuki succumbed to temptation and attempted to kill Hajime, thinking Hajime had hypnotized the whole harem. Kuki and his clone attacked Hajime and Shizuku. Hajime threw Kuki down, but Kuki merged with his clone and grew stronger. Hajime easily overpowered him, pointed a weapon at him, and fired, eliminating only his dark personality. They reached the end of the trials and entered the palace, where they received metamorphosis magic. In the magic circle, Hajime and Yui suddenly lost consciousness. They gathered in a room where Hajime announced their souls had been rebooted and that they needed to join forces to create a vessel for the primeval entity. They discussed returning to Japan. Shizuku pressed Kuki when a loud crash interrupted them. The group entered a chamber where Yue and Hajime were creating an artifact. Keys appeared in their hands and they fell unconscious. Hajime used the key and opened something, announcing they could return home. Afterwards, everyone shared their plans and departed. An ice dragon appeared before the party and carried them away. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to see what happens next. See you soon!